Welcome, welcome to the last glorious class of this new course that I ran together with my former client and now coach, Linda Rouser. And I am so proud of us that we actually finished this and all the things we made in the meantime, all the things we've learned ourselves. I certainly learned some things. And yeah, I just feel like I want more. I want more of this. So the next thing I'm going to do, well, Linda, what are you going to do next in terms of self-sustaining? Oh, you froze again. So, oh no. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do next. I want to create a garden, and I want to use the vegetable garden, and I want to use the cardboard base simple approach, which means that if you already have a lawn, which we have here, it's huge, you put cardboard, you take all the plastic wrappings and whatever, taping that might be on your cardboard boxes, which we get so much of, whether it's from the big distributors or the little guys. So you take all the plasticky stuff off the cardboard, lay it down on the lawn and water it like crazy with a hose. Hopefully you can reach with a hose. Otherwise it would be lots of carrying back and forth of water. So you water down until it's really soaked with water. And then you pile dirt, first heavy dirt on it, then some compost, lighter dirt, maybe some leaves and sticks and stuff, and then another best organic compost dirt on top, and then you plant in it. And what the cardboard does, it eliminates the grass from, growing through to your vegetables, but at the same time, over time, it decomposes as it's hopefully not as it hopefully does not have many plastic components. It seems like everything has some plastic components these days that we call paper, but it decomposes enough so that bigger roots can actually get through it to the soil, and while the grass has been eliminated under it and becomes itself decomposed, composty under bearings, under support, soil. So that's what I want to try. And you don't need any encasings, for which you have to put wood planks together, etc. You don't need any mechanical devices. Maybe I will need fencing because I have so many groundhogs. They're so cute. I love them. Do you have groundhogs?
Yeah, we have a couple.
And because you're next to a golf course, they're probably loving running around over there too, right?
Right.
Yeah, what other creatures do you have?
We have squirrels and chipmunks. We have a feeder. Most people try to put up feeders to prevent squirrels and chipmunks, but we just think they're very cute, so we actually encourage them. And birds will still flock to our feeder as well. So yeah, we just have that right in the backyard. My husband just put up a hummingbird feeder, so we're going to try to attract hummingbirds this year.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I have, of course, I put out my compost stuff, which is all organic plant stuff, in a bowl. Before when the bowl is full, I take it all the way out to the compost pile. But to that bowl, the groundhogs come and 2 white albino skunks come.
Wow.
Really curious. Yes, they're all white, and I cannot figure out that they could be any other creature. I mean, they look like skunks, and yeah.
Interesting.
And occasionally there's a faint little smell. I guess when they're interrupted by a groundhog or by any other creature, they decide
I have
to,
never seen one. Wow.
yeah. But you've seen regular skunks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, and I've seen those white skunks from when they were really small and these fluffy tails, they're adorable. But yeah. And the groundhogs are so comfortable that they walk right over my back when I'm tanning in the sun outside.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I just,
Hmm.
living out in nature is a beautiful thing. So, all right. So that might be the next course, seeing how that cardboard garden develops in that I'd like to teach. And but now let's look back at all the things we learned from when we started out with Learn to be Self-Sustaining. And I was certainly kind of a beginner. How about you?
Oh, definitely. That's why I signed up for the course. Definitely a beginner.
So the first thing we did was what?
Well, I think, I'm looking at our syllabus. I know we started, talking about why we needed to become more self-sustaining, in this day and age. And I think you focused one of the early classes in on supplies, the types of supplies that we needed.
Exactly. And the supplies immediately, the supplies were things that we can store. So we focused on storage of supplies and how they can be kept and where we can find them bulk, and then what we do with that bulk. And I think, well, this is kind of looking ahead a little bit. I was going to share my screen. I do not have photos of the bulk materials that I have. I have this big bin. I should have taken a picture. I have this big bin with a lid on it in which I keep my 10-pound bag of sunflower seeds, hazelnuts, cashew nuts, and often some other things, sometimes almonds and so forth. So I have not used mung beans or lentils in bulk, but that too is a possibility. But you can get them relatively inexpensive at the health food store in the bulk sections, right?
Right.
So I wanted to, okay, let's first say that what was the next step. So we started with storage and bulk materials. What have I left out of bulk materials?
No, I think that we were just covering the types of materials for long-term storage.
Right.
I don't know that we discussed a specific area for storing. Cool and dark would be preferable, but dry. So,
I think we went over all the different legumes we can have, right? From
what could be stored long term,
lentils to mung beans to hemp seed to sesame seed, you like a lot, right? To of course, sunflower seeds I already mentioned, all the different nuts. What am I missing? Any categories I'm missing? And then of course also storage of the things that we may have made and dehydrated.
Yep, so, absolutely.
Yeah. And I have a nice picture for that. Where is it? Here. Let's show that so that we can start a little bit. Share. Can you see that?
Yes, nice.
Right? Aren't they pretty?
Are they beet? Did you use
Yes, beet? They are beet. Beet lentil sprout burgers.
Wow.
So, and hazelnuts are in there as well, but in terms of what we're talking about, they are beet is kind of what's giving them the beautiful color.
Uh-huh.
And then nuts and sprouted lentils are giving them the high protein value. And again, your keto value.
Right,
Right.
right.
And of course, for me, the beets give us the necessary little bit of sugar that we might benefit from as well. So we have
Those are beautiful.
beautiful burgers that we can use in any combination of foods. Be it on a regular sandwich with all the trimmings that we typically put on burgers, right? They all can go on there, from the onions to the lettuce to the, if you want ketchup, but I don't think you do, but you know, if you wanted to, it could all go on there. And mayonnaise or something. Add it as a meat to your cauliflower mush or to your potatoes or whatever it may be.
I can certainly vouch for how well they travel.
Yes, you just got a taste of how well they travel because I brought some hazelnut burgers. They weren't beet, but they were hazelnut burgers.
But they were the veggie burger. They were spectacular, just so delicious. They're gone. Thank you.
And that's just 2 days ago.
Yeah, they were great.
All right. I am so happy that you enjoyed them. So yes, and of course there are many, many variations of these burgers, or the burger bites for that matter, that I make that are very dehydrated. So they're actually little crunchy bites. And then they store even longer. These should store in the deep freeze if you keep them longer than a few days, because of course they remain a little bitey, crunchy, even when they're straight out of the dehydrator on the outside, but soft on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of those storaged goods. Next, we were getting into sprouting. What did we sprout?
You started some sprouts, but you did have some sprouts. I think you had lentil sprouts.
Yes, I had lentil sprouts. That's right. And I also always had some alfalfa sprouts, because that's what we're so used to getting even in the stores, right? Somebody puts a little bit of sprouts on something and they just like as a decoration, but we wanted to make it more as real food. And I have a picture for that as well. And that is, where is it? Here. Share this. Why is it not sharing? No. My screen share is loading. No, that's not a good possibility. It's not there, right?
No, I just see the Zoom link.
Okay, that didn't work. I thought I could just pull this over. Maybe I have to pull it over to the side. Because it's a nice plate with a avocado sandwich with tomatoes and avocados on it, and a bunch of big pile of sprouts and a pile of freshly picked watercress. And that was in January, in between the snow patches.
Wow. You have had such good luck finding, on your foraging excursions.
Right. I mean, you do need to look a little bit. You need to look where to go. But I'm very sure that in your neighborhood, there's some too. You just, it takes a little bit of time to actually go out there in the day and look where the good stuff is.
Right.
And you don't have the habit as much as I do of going out into the woods for walking or running, right?
Right.
So you walk on your walker at home. But I do like to go under trees. I just came across yet another study of how we literally absorb, breathe in through our skin, through our breath, the energy of trees. And that can be directly affecting our well-being. So I like going out under trees in the wild, and that's where I found these. Let me try this one more time. I don't understand why this is not working. There it is. Okay, now it's working. Can you see it?
Oh, I can. Spectacular.
Right?
Oh, wow.
See the watercress here?
Uh-huh.
And the alfalfa sprouts. And of course, the avocado sandwich on a plate. So now blow this up to a big plate. That's quite a lot of food.
Yeah, that is great.
So luxury eating, as Linda and I both say, right? We love
Gourmet,
luxury
for
eating.
sure.
All right, so we started sprouting these things. My big surprise in the sprouting arena was making sprouted hummus from sprouted chickpeas. And have you ever done that, Linda?
I
forget.
have done that. And my only issue was that it tasted bitter. And I always find that chickpea sprouts taste a little bitter. And when I looked online, everyone recommended, steaming them or, cooking them to get rid of that bitterness. But I'm sure there's something else or something I could have added to the hummus to offset that. I just didn't know what it was. And maybe you can,
What I realized is that you can't sprout them too long. How far did you let yours sprout?
just little tails on the end, just for a few days.
And are you sure your chickpeas were organic?
I believe they were.
Okay.
I believe they were. I guess I can't be 100%.
Because I think it was the well, I added a little bit of garlic. Of course, I added quite a bit of salt and a lot of lemon juice, real fresh lemon juice, not, oh, you froze again. There you are, you're back. Real fresh lemon juice, and then some black pepper and some paprika. And I think that rounded it out. And then I let it sit for a day in the fridge.
Did you add tahini or ground?
Oh, yeah. And I added 2 big tablespoons of, again, raw organic tahini.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Quite a lot. More than some people said you needed or should. Tahini, of course, in and of itself is also bitter.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that the garlic and the lemon hurt that.
Yep.
And a pretty, bitter also goes away with higher amounts of salt, which I always found fascinating from childhood. If you add a little bit more salt to something you perceive as bitter or is bitter, it becomes less bitter.
Okay.
I don't know what the chemistry is.
Yeah.
I'd love to find that out, but yeah. When you perceive something as too bitter, if it's, of course, a savory dish, you don't want to add salt to a ginger brownie or something because you perceive the ginger as brownie. So there you have it. But yeah, to me, that was a big discovery because I'd never done that. I had once or twice purchased a raw food product line that had all kinds of flavored hummus. Do you say hummus or hummus?
Hummus.
Hummus. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
No.
So the that company, however, which was regional in the western part of New York, they were producing a whole line that was sold at Whole Foods and various stores. And they were promoting it at the time. I got to meet the owners and inventors, creators of that product line, but they too disappeared like every other raw food product line, right? It's just too hard to make ends meet, especially when you're in the big food chain stores.
So even more of a reason to try to do the research to make it yourself in
Good point,
big
exactly.
batches. And I do know you can freeze hummus,
Yes. Mhm.
so you
And I
can make a
didn't make
bigger
enough
batch.
to freeze it, but I've often thought, I wish I had some. What happened to mine though was leaving it sit for a day or two in the fridge. It tasted cheesy, but kind of in a nice way,
Mm,
as if there were some Parmesan in it or something,
yeah.
in a good way cheesy without, of course, having any dairy in it. So I enjoyed it a lot. Now in the good old days, in the not so good old days, I was a big cheese fan. So I like those flavors. And that I found very pleasant. So yes,
Mhm.
I must make that again, and I'm glad we're talking about it. All right, anything you discovered new when sprouting?
No, I know that there are, when I'm looking to sprout, but stay more on a keto course, vegan keto, trajectory. I'm looking at doing broccoli seeds and some of the more cruciferous types of seeds and sprouting those. And that's actually my goal to, start this month or next month. I bought the seeds, and so I'm just going to start with that.
You
to
have
see how they come
arugula
out.
too?
Oh, I don't have arugula.
Because that's another cruciferous that we often don't think of as cruciferous, right?
You're right, but I don't know that I've seen sprouts.
Oh, yes, they
Seeds.
often
Oh,
are in
then
the
I'll
mix.
definitely do
In the
that.
mixed sprouts, there's arugula. You have arugula and
Radish.
radish mix. Radish is another one that's cruciferous
Mhm.
and adds a little spice.
So
And
that's my goal, is to start working out, sprouting more of the cruciferous
Yeah.
vegetables, and
Very cool.
learning how long to do it, whether you expose them to sun, to get a little bit of the chlorophyll. So it'll be an interesting experiment.
Great. So that's all the sprouting. And yes, I mean, we both don't seem to sprout our nuts, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That's the one thing I like, the flavor of nuts when they're not sprouted. And my argument is to everybody out there shaming me for not sprouting my nuts. The argument is that the cell tissue of the nuts, if they're really raw nuts, is still alive, and we allow that cell tissue, as we grind down the dried nuts, to absorb the liquid of the fruits and veggies that we might have in the mix, for example, in the burgers. And therefore, there is an aliveness in the cell tissue of the nuts still there, that yes, it would not produce a nut tree anymore, but it will still produce a living combination of the foods. And that happens less when the nuts are sprouted. So I do sprout sunflower seeds, although they're kind of similar in quality and features to especially walnuts. But that's mainly for the flavor also. The flavor becomes more nutty when they're sprouted. Just, I mean, not even sprouted, soaked. If they're too sprouted, they get kind of easily moldy because some of the skins, or most of the skins, come off, and then they become, they want to become the dirt for the other parts of the sprout to grow in, and that's not a good flavor. Okay. Moving on. I have foraging on the list next, but I think we did fermenting first. Mind you, what do we call this here? Let me see, I have to pull it over, no. Let me just share.
And don't forget, we did do we did talk a little bit about dehydrating.
Yeah. What's this?
I think I see your beets in the back there.
That's sprouting the tops of root vegetables, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually
yeah.
part of sprouting if we want, right?
True.
So, and our cat is addicted to, I mean, right now I have some, actually, I'm going to show them in a minute. I have some yellow beets sitting here that are doing fantastically well, but our cat, again, loves the water of sprouting beet tops. So, and therefore I just had to put this picture in. It's such a cute thing, right? And you see her
Wow.
eyes closed in indulgence, right?
Yeah, yeah. Very cute.
So that's sprouting the tops of beets. And look here what I have right now.
Oh, those are doing great.
Isn't that fabulous? I know. These are yellow beet tops. And again, I've eaten the beets. Oh, I think the beets were in the burgers that I shared
Oh, the
with you.
hazelnut burgers?
Yes, I think so. I think there was some beet in there. But the yellow beets, that's why they weren't pink in color.
Mhm.
All right. So again, but the cat.
And now what will you
drink
do? What
this
will you do
water.
with the beets, the beet tops?
The beet top? Well, I am going to take off the rotten
Mhm.
leaves, the old leaves that we've already eaten,
Yep.
and leave the entire core and put that into any kind of mix that I want. So, you
Okay.
just take off the outside, the old stuff, and leave the entire core, including a little bit of the yellow beet, and using it for whatever mix you want next. I'll probably put
Okay.
these into my cauliflower mash or something. But yeah, it's amazing, right? I mean, how big that stuff grows just from the little sliver off the top of the beet.
It's something most people would just throw away, and you're actually using it to make another meal.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to me, it's not just the saving of the money, kind of, by making more use. It's just showing you how much life is in organic raw vegetables.
Yeah.
That's another part of it that I'm so adamant about teaching people. I just yesterday was in a long conversation with a new client that we just are not taught, or it's not in the best interest, of course, of our industry, of our food industry, which is what it is, right? To teach us that there's life force in fresh vegetables and fruits.
Mhm.
And this is the best demonstration to me, right? Even in a little piece of top of a plant, top of a root. And I haven't done it myself, but I've seen other people do it also with romaine lettuce and or even cabbage. As long as you have a bit of a trunk and you've used the top of the cabbage or romaine, you can still grow the center again without needing a root, which is phenomenal, right?
It is.
Yeah. Of course, you can't have I don't think you can get this second growth to go into bloom, which would produce seed, which would create another plant. But you can certainly see that there's an abundance of life in that little bit of living vegetable. That's to me the most mind-blowing part of it, You think, okay, that's just garbage, throw it out. And here it is. There's all this power in there, and all it needs is a little water.
A little water. Wow.
Right? I mean, I didn't
Right.
put any fertilizer in there or any, nothing. No crystal power, nothing, just water. Yeah. All right. So good. Now, yeah, dehydrating. We talked a little bit about the burgers. Do you have another example? Did you dehydrate something else?
Well, as you know, I dehydrate bananas for dog treats. Instead of buying
you have a
conventional
picture?
treats.
Or an
I
example in your hand?
I'd have to run downstairs and
Downstairs,
grab them.
right? But not,
But yeah, so it's great. You know, you take your a little bit too ripe bananas and cut them up and dehydrate them, and then they work perfectly. The dogs love them, and I just think it's a lot it's a lot healthier than some of the other, like I say, more conventional dog treats that are out there that are processed,
you
not
bet.
raw, and they really enjoy them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I dehydrate a lot of stuff.
And our
just
pets
anything.
get too little of that live
Yeah.
power anyway. So if you
Right.
dehydrate them at a low enough temperature, they actually get that same live energy that we just showed you guys with the sprouting beet tops,
Right.
right? That
With the
same live
enzymes
energy is in
intact.
a banana.
What's that?
That same live energy is in a
Yes.
banana.
Yes.
If you dry it at a low temperature below 120 degrees, you will retain that living power. And our pets, of course, are desperate for living foods, because what they would do out in nature is, of course, eat their prey raw, and they wouldn't go back home and grill it.
Yeah, right.
Let's have a little grill party, said the badger to the, or whatever, said the, no, not the, said the wolf to the fox, right? That's what we could say.
Right.
But they also do eat quite a bit of grass, and sometimes when I'm out running and there are other people with their dogs, and they prevent their dogs from eating the grass, and they say, don't eat that, you don't know, don't eat that grass. They need the grass because they need the fiber. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to, so yeah, I dehydrate a lot of stuff. The only thing that I have left here to show is a carrot cracker. Now you got to taste some carrot crackers as well, right? And typically I make them very thin. This is much thicker than it normally is, but it's a crunchy. Hear that?
Mm-hmm. And just such a great flavor. You don't even need to put a spread on it. It's great just by itself.
Mm-hmm. So, and of course, there's an enormous variety of, if you are creative, of what you can do with such dehydrated materials. These ones in particular contain, they contain, let's put it very close. You can see that it contains flax seeds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Flax seeds and sunflower seeds, sprouted sunflowers or soaked sunflower seeds are the main ingredients, and carrots. And what makes it so flavorful is actually oranges.
Oh,
Oranges add to
interesting.
the same amount of weight as the carrots. And actually all to the same amount, 1 pound of flaxseed, 1 pound of sunflower seed, 1 pound of carrots, 1 pound of oranges. And then almost as much, but a little less of onion. So the oranges and the onion together with the carrots create that wonderful sweet and savory flavor. And yeah, I throw in just a couple of raisins for extra. And then of course, salt and paprika and cumin and curry is in here. So you may have tasted that, and it gives also a little bit more of a yellow color together with the carrots, right? Yellowish. And yeah, so that's what we have. And I mean, we tend to stick to the recipes that we have learned and like and repeat them endlessly, but sometimes we really should be more inventive and just try other combinations. And I mean, I'm to be blamed too. I love my carrot crackers and my veggie burger bites, and because other people buy them, I tend to just repeat the same stuff. But at least in the soft burgers, I have learned to make a lot more variety because I don't have a one fits all product for sale for that. I've made a lot of burgers for sale, but not, you know, or sometimes very specific. One of my colleagues and dear friends doesn't like any salt in them, so I made some for her just with kelp as a savory, salty element. And like that. Okay, moving on from the dehydration. Of course, there's lots of sweet stuff to dehydrate as well, in addition to bananas, which we didn't talk about, you know, brownies and what else do I have? I actually only have brownies, raspberry brownies, ginger brownies. What else have I dehydrated in terms of sweet? Yeah, those things like fruit leathers or like almost fruit leathers, you know,
Right.
just fruit and maybe psyllium,
Right.
and you mix some dates in there for sweetener. That can be
And a lot of
very,
times for those who do like to soak their nuts, and I used to do that with almonds, I'd put them in the dehydrator to kind of get them back to, you know, a crunchy texture. And it seemed to help with that. But, you know, like you, I tend not to soak them anymore. Because then you're looking like if I want them, I know now it's going to be a day and a half before I can really enjoy them by having to soak them overnight or for several hours, dehydrate them for a few more hours to get them crunchy. So like you, I
yes,
tend to just eat them as
it's
is.
just too much of a labor intensive product if they're
Long
dehydrated.
way.
And I mean, if they're soaked and dehydrated and then stored, as opposed to stored,
Just eat them.
just eat them.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's if that's the worst thing I do in my diet. I think I'm good with that.
Same here.
Right.
All right. Good. Next, we have the foraging. Now, I already talked about the foraged watercress that I found even in January and February that I put on my plate. And here comes my biggest foraged product. Okay, now I always have to pull these in first position or else they won't show. Okay.
Mhm.
Now I know what to do. Looky here.
Oh,
Is that a nice bunch?
what a handful.
Barely close my hand around it. So, and
And
that's
that's a recent find, correct?
that was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still March. You know,
Right.
it's still
It was still, I
winter
mean, there
here
was
in the
still, when I
Northeast.
picked these, there was still a couple of snow patches.
Wow.
But they come
look
out
beautiful.
as soon as you just need one sunny day and a little bit of breathing room for them. And they come out everywhere.
Wow.
I mean, I have pictures also where you see them coming up in bushes, but I didn't find all of them. But
And are these the
are,
chives?
well, they are really chives, wild chives. But for some reason, people don't call them chives. People call them wild garlic. There was another name. I can't remember. Yeah, wild garlic. I mean, but they have tiny little bulbs that I really, here you don't see any bulbs because I ripped them off. I don't want to pull them out. You know, I want them to come back next year. So yeah, and these are incredibly flavorful. And while you can, of course, not freeze them like that, but when you turn them into pesto, you can certainly freeze the pesto. But I also kept them in water and they literally stood back up out of the water because they're just so alive. You know how you stick, I just put them in a bowl of water so that they were slightly submerged, but not the tips. And they just come all up like that in the water, even
Mm.
though they don't have roots. I thought that was pretty phenomenal too. So, in fact, I have some in the kitchen now, but I'm not going to run get them. They're still out. They're probably going to be out through April to mid-May, and then they disappear. Same with the garlic mustard in the northern hemisphere. I didn't find a good image of garlic mustard. Although I know it, but I think I only did video and that's going too far. Yeah. So garlic mustard, look it up. It's a very common weed, an invasive weed. Oh my God, it invades you. And then you can eat it for free.
Yeah.
How terrible is that? Yeah. What I haven't found in this area, but which I had a lot when I had a house up in the Catskills, a little bit later, is purslane. Purslane, right?
Mhm.
Porcelain being the pottery and purslane being this wild plant. Now, if we looked up, just Googled purslane. Oh, no, it is porcelain greens. Weird. Let's just see what images we get here. Yeah, because they're a little, I want to show how they grow because they grow flat on the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, this may be the best image. Ah, nah. Come on, give me a better image. Maybe this. Oh, but it won't blow up. It will be very small, but this is a good article. Okay, let me just share quickly. Can you see?
Oh,
Unfortunately, I can't blow this up any further, the plant. They're little fatty, but kind of crunchy, delicious leaves. Very salady in flavor, like salad. And they grow like a little bit like a spider web to the side, like that, flat on the ground. And they like to grow, where you have cleared the grass for your vegetables, and then your purslane comes out and spreads all over the ground. And at the time when we had plenty of them, when I had hired a gardener from Europe, a young man, to set up an organic garden with my kids. I wanted them to learn gardening. And I don't think he knew this plant. Maybe we don't have it in Europe as much. So I only learned later. So I think they just pulled it all out and put it on the compost. I only learned later that these are very highly nutritious plants. So common purslane with a U actually, or portulaca, Latin, portulaca. All right.
I'll stick with
so
purslane.
Purslane is Purslane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be big bushes, like here's another image, but it's also very small.
Big bushes, but always low to the ground.
Yes.
Mhm.
Relatively low to the ground. Mind you, here it's in a box. Let me just go back to sharing this. This is nice. See here, it's a bush that's in a box garden hanging over the edge. And here it breaks through the kind of dried earth. Where there's
You're
no
not
other
sharing
grass.
yet.
Hmm?
You're not sharing yet.
Oh, I'm not sharing. My bad.
No.
Thank you. Now?
There you go. Oh, good pictures.
Okay, this is where it's growing over the edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it's, after there had been like a flood, I suppose, you can see that this just dried up after being a puddle, right?
It grows. Wow.
It grows out of the cracks and then
Yeah.
spreads flat to the sides. Yeah. And of course, in farming, it is often considered a weed. You see a little more detail, how it grows and
Yeah.
that the plants are sort of, the leaves are kind of a little fat. And there we are back to that image.
Fat
here
and
we have
shiny.
the flower. Flower is tiny. I mean, this is deceiving, but the flower is really tiny. You see it in here. Yeah. Oh, I hadn't seen this part. The seeds are in a pod like that. Cool. Yeah, and then here people are selling it on farmers markets.
Yep.
Because now it's becoming a thing. But yeah, so I haven't found purslane here, but there you have it. There's another really dominant, really very available plant in most, I suppose, northern regions. I don't know whether they grow further down south. You'd have to find out. Okay. We need to move on to fermenting. Yes, time is already eloping. Okay. Fermenting. Now, fermenting, I have to put right here. I learned from Linda, kind of, and of course, research. But Linda, tell us how you discovered fermenting.
Well, I was interested in fermentation because of the probiotics. And I thought, rather than just, adding another supplement to my regimen, I thought I'm gonna research doing some fermenting. And so I started, and I had done a batch a couple years ago. I got mold on the top, and I had a couple batches that didn't go well, and I kind of put it aside and thought, okay. And then when, as part of this class, we both decided, all right, let's ramp up the effort. So I tried again, but this time I did a little more research. I understood now how to prevent the kind of, how to prevent that mold, that from, growing on the top. And the secret really is to keep your cabbage submerged in that brine, in that salt water liquid. And that was something I didn't really understand. And you take a big, like a big cabbage leaf, you put it, after you've tampered down the cabbage, put your leaf on there, put the weight on, and then you watch it. You just make sure that water level stays high enough, because that's where, it's like, that's where the magic happens. That's where it starts to break down. It gets soft. You're getting the probiotics. And then, I think it was 2 weeks I waited. You didn't, I think you tried it after a week and you were happy with yours, but I went the full 2 weeks, and it was spectacular. I was so happy with the flavor. I put some caraway seeds in one batch, and the other I just left plain. Both were really good. And I did red peppers, and I think I brought those to class. Those only took a few days. So, but there's no limit. I did try Brussels sprouts, but I did not have good luck with those. So they seem to turn color in the water, and maybe my brine mix wasn't ideal. I'm not sure, but I didn't, I tried a batch of those and didn't have good luck. So,
What happened?
but again, they weren't organic and maybe there was something, maybe that had. maybe
Okay,
the
that's what they
conventional-
always say, make sure
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
vegetables are organic, because the very
Yep.
pesticides that prevent mold will prevent fermentation.
Yes. So, lesson learned. I tried, and so
Yeah.
I'm bringing it up as a failure on my part because your advice is still, spot on, valid. Using the organic, starting with organic is just it's going to make all the difference. I mean, your chances of success with the fermentation are, 100% versus
Right.
where I had to
Now, I
figure
can
out.
say that my very first time fermenting myself, I did not even use a stone or a weight. What I did is, and many of you out there will say, yeah, but you put germs in there. I used my hand,
How about your
pressed
fist?
that stuff down every day so that it stayed underwater, and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. And my red cabbage was so good
Oh,
that I just
I'm
had
gonna do
one
that.
dinner with a couple of guests. They ate all of it. I had nothing left. Ugh.
Yeah, that's on my list to do, red cabbage. I think that would be so delicious. Red cabbage
Yeah.
is great anyway.
Yeah.
And they have that salty, sweet flavor and that soft texture. I'll bet it was delicious.
It was totally. Yeah, I think I always added a little bit of garlic and
Mhm.
quite a bit of salt. And I didn't even make a mixed brine before. I just put the salt and the water and the cabbage and everything together and pounded that stuff down in the glass. Mwah. Bingo.
How long did you let that go for? A week?
Yeah, no, I liked it better after 2 weeks because
2 weeks. That seems to
when it
be
gets a
the
little
right
softer.
number for
Yeah.
cabbage, 2 weeks.
So yeah, that was fermenting. Now, what else could we ferment that we didn't ferment? We didn't try pickles of cucumbers or things
Right.
like that.
Right.
But
Zucchini, it's all fair game for fermenting.
right? Yeah. Do you need other ingredients for pickling? I think so. You need that special pickling salt to
Yeah,
get
it's
the
that
flavor.
lime. Yeah, or the calcium citrate. There's a special chemical you use for pickling versus fermentation, which really is just, a Himalayan sea salt or Celtic, the Celtic sea salt, some type of a more mineral rich salt than just
Yes.
iodized,
Don't
standard
try
one.
to use regular cooking
No.
salt because again, it's got chemicals in it. It
Yeah.
will not help the fermentation.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, that was a beautiful experience for me too. And I need to do more of it now that I have a special device that Linda gave me for fermentation. So now I really have to live up to the promise and do more of it.
Just
All
have to
right,
send
so
me a picture.
fermenting was fabulous. And then we moved to well, what do we do with foraged
Mhm.
foods, right? And we made live a pesto, right?
Yes.
A chives and garlic mustard pesto. And you probably still got some in your fridge, although it was a later batch, but it is something that I certainly have taken to heart and have eaten ever since. These I call them wild crafted pestos, right? And what goes into a typical pesto? Let's just sum that up because it's the easiest way of quickly using your wild crafted greens and making them storageable and retaining their freshness and retaining most of their nutrients. So for the pesto, that it's always obviously salt, lemon juice, a little olive oil, virgin olive oil, organic, please. And then the respective nut or seed that you use for the pesto, along with the herbs or with the wild crafted greens. And I have done my pestos predominantly with walnuts or sunflower seeds. Now, have you used other nuts, Linda?
No, I don't, I've never made pesto. So that was a great experience to be able to share that with you when you brought that over. It was delicious. I just, not something that was on my list, but
Yeah.
definitely now.
And again, it goes with so many things. And you can have, you can have it on your burgers, you can have it on your sandwich, you can have it on your salad as a dressing, right? You
Right.
can have it as a dumpling in your soup, for that matter. I've done that in recipes, like a warm butternut squash soup with a dumpling of raw pesto in it. Is delicious. It just adds that je ne sais quoi, you know, it adds the gourmet to any dish. Yeah, so it's a very versatile, it's, you know, it's in America, it's considered a condiment, and Italy too, you know, pesto is always considered a condiment. But because we make it so thick, you can actually just, if you're really hungry and you need something quick, you can spoon it. Well, today I have a rich smoothie here, but you know that has the same qualities because it has all the breadth of ingredients. Well, this doesn't have nuts in it actually, but so it lacks the fat. But yeah, it has the fats, it has the proteins, it has the greens, it has the vitamin C, it has the vitamin A, it has the D, it has the everything in it. And therefore, pesto is a really great condiment if you make it such that it's not too salty, so that you could only use a tiny little bit, but you make it so that you can actually also just spoon a couple of spoons if you want a snack in between, right? Or pick your cracker, dig it into the pesto and right? That kind of thing. Good. What we didn't do, I'm just seeing this, is remedies, superfood, and poultices. And that may have to do with the fact that we also didn't find any wild ginger, which many people say you can find almost everywhere in the non-super tropical hemispheres. But we didn't do that. So there's another challenge. What kind of medicinal remedies are out there that we have not yet explored? Of course, it's a little trickier because those are not things that are wildly, you need to be a little bit more of an herbalist, I suppose, right? But that's something we did not get to. All right. Then grow second yield plants. That's I bunched that in with sprouting right now. And dishes from foraged foods we already talked about. And then I had one more category that I made a video about. You know, when you think you don't have any food left or any fresh food left, right, in the house, that's when you get inventive with those dried goods that you can sprout, soak, mix, and get together. All right. What from the list that we had on our original page have we left out? Can you look? You froze again. Oh, she froze. Hello. Linda, you froze. Okay, I'm going to show you in the meantime the porcelain sold at farmers markets. See here in little bunches, neatly cropped. Linda, tell me when you're back. And here they spell it with a U, purslane, yeah. $2 a bunch. Now that's a bargain. For your salad greens. Okay. Oh, we lost Linda. I am too sad. I hope you're going to be back, Linda, for the goodbyes. So maybe she's switching to her phone because that has happened before. All right. So the Learn to Be More Self-Sustaining class definitely is an ongoing project. That's what I learned. And I learned a lot teaching this class and doing this class and researching for this class. There she's back. Hooray. You're muted still. Unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected.
Yeah,
I'm back.
that's what happens here too sometimes. All right, I wanted you to look back at that sheet at the original offer of the class. What was on that?
So I think we've covered just about everything on here.
Just
we talked
rattle
about-
it off, and then we round out.
Okay. Yep. So number one, why do we need self-sustenance now? Covered that. Getting supplies, starting with the basics, inexpensive staples, learning to use all parts of your veggies and fruits. You covered extensively. Dehydrating and sprouting, windowsill herbs and baby greens, which we did touch on. And I think you had an example and you had started something, but I think with a paper towel, but I think
Yes,
you had to, I don't think it was getting watered enough, or you needed soil and you had to go find some.
yeah, the paper towels I used, or it was napkins actually,
Okay.
turned out to be plastic, and the sprout could not get through or dig into it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I put some of those seeds outside, but of course it's still been frosted until few days ago. And so I haven't seen anything coming up from those.
Okay.
Um,
We talked about sauerkraut, other fermentations, what to store and how regarding dry staples and frozen fresh foods, foraging even in the wintry north, which you just showed us that beautiful picture with the wild garlic. Spices make whatever you can get in the markets delicious. Do you think?
yeah, we didn't talk about that either. And that's because Linda is a low spice girl and I'm a high spice girl.
True. True. And then we didn't really cover connecting with groups in your area to share and enjoy, but maybe that's a meetup situation.
I think that's definitely also in the next course with the garden outside and with hooking up with other people who are doing backyard gardening. I definitely want to do that. And I know there's a permaculture group up here, not too far from me, that I really want to hook up with. And yeah, I'm sure there's something in your area as well. You know, when I drove through your area, there's so much wilderness still out there.
Yes, it's beautiful. You're right.
Yeah, there must be people who are also doing backyard gardening or look up permaculture groups, look up forest gardening, look up just gardening groups.
Yeah.
Or organic gardening groups. I don't think people who don't do organic, do they even gather in groups? I don't know. Maybe they do. Oh, what's your Roundup success?
Yeah, exactly. That's awful. Oh, what's your Roundup success? Okay.
We're just rounding up our class
design.
without the Roundup.
Yeah. Lifestyle design to meet your why. And last we had schedules, promises, and commitment to yourself, which we've kind of talked about during the entire course. The fact that you would, want to participate in a course like this. And, we've both made commitments to do more with the fermentation, with the sprouting, which I think ultimately is, it will be a huge win for both of us to bring more of that into our, as part of our lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, because ultimately we learn by doing much more so than by just absorbing the theory, and we create a lifestyle by just getting started.
Right.
And even if we think, oh, I'm just doing this for a couple of weeks or a couple of days, before you know it, gets integrated into your lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. The whole theory of, making it a routine, and then you make it, you enjoy it, and then it becomes one of those go-to recipes that you like to make all the time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So everybody who has a bit of a backyard or a windowsill, or who is interested in just putting some more living stuff into their body so that the body doesn't deteriorate as fast as it does in our modern world. I just heard a terrible statistic that 50% of our children, 10-year-olds, now have one or more chronic problems.
50%.
ADHD to allergies to you name it, obesity to, that is frightening.
Mm-hmm.
So look into what you can do for your family, for your friends, for your clients, Linda. They need you. Remember that. They need you.
Thank you.
So tell Miss D to maybe watch this class.
Okay, certainly.
I'll make it available for you.
Great.
All right. And everybody out there, this class will run as a recorded class. And if you want to participate in the next live class, connect with me and learn how to subscribe, how to get involved in this whole movement of understanding the biology of life better. And I think that's what this class was also very much about, understanding the biology of life on planet Earth better. We all need more fresh air, more fresh sunshine, more fresh food, more good sleep. Linda has a great sleeping pattern. I have a great sleeping pattern too, but they're both like at different spectrums of what we call the night, right? So cool though. And everybody has to find that place where they thrive, where you thrive. That's what you have to find. But we can connect on how to get to that best life possible for ourselves and our loved ones and everybody else out there who can benefit from us putting out this message that, yes, you can have a more self-sustaining life. So learn how to be more self-sustaining. Linda, thank you so much for running this class with me. I enjoyed this company, and I think we should do this again, this collaboration.
Well, it was a lot of fun, and I think we both learned a lot. So
yes, absolutely. We did. And that's it, guys. More next time. Connect with Linda. Linda, give your website.
Oh, plantpoweredvitality.com.
Oh, there you have it. Plantpoweredvitality.com. And of course, mine is just johannasrawfoods.com and rawsomelifeglobal.com, which is the learning site that's not necessarily yet actively providing all that's listed up there, but bit by bit, we're going to get there. So find us. And of course, you can just Google Professor Johanna Sophia. You'll find lots of interviews and speeches and places where you can learn more about what I do and how I think and what I promote. Again, I just had a conversation with somebody who saw me years ago in a public event and decided to connect. So, it's never for naught that you put yourself out there and promote and talk about how helpful it is to invite more living nature into your life. Ending it there. Ciao. Linda
I'm
froze
here.
again.
Bye-bye, thanks.
All right.